All right, UFC 317, Oliveira versus Topuria, full card predictions. The UFC made a big mistake. They accidentally made a very good card. This card would have been better. A couple fights fell off of it. We had Costa versus Kopylov. That was a good fight. And there was something else that fell off that was pretty good. Royval versus Cap was supposed to be there. But we got Van versus Royval, so we'll get to that later. But pretty decent card we've got going. We've got a couple Contender Series matchups coming up. But then we'll get to the good stuff. So yeah, first fight of the card was supposed to be Sedriques Dumas versus someone, and then that Sedriques Dumas fell out, and whatever. It was going to be two fighters that weren't in the UFC, but one of them missed weight by 10 pounds, so that fight got canceled. So our early prelim opener is going to be Jhonata Diniz versus Alvin Hines. I'm picking Jhonata Diniz. He's got some UFC experience. He hasn't fought the best competition. He beat Austin Lane, who is pretty shit at fighting. But he did it in a way that was, I guess, impressive. He lost the first round, but he got the knockout in the second. He beat Carl Williams, and I think that was a pretty decent win. I think Carl Williams should have won that fight. He should have just shot more takedowns and realized that he was outmatched on the feet, but he didn't. And then Jhonata did lose to Marcin Tybura by just getting out grappled and getting beat up, being on the bottom of his mount. I think he's a good striker. And I was watching some of Alvin Hines' fights in LFA, especially I'm pretty sure his most recent one where he got a head kick knockout. And it looked like, no offense to the guy he fought, but it did look like a street abuse fight. Like, it didn't look like a UFC level heavyweight fight, which is not saying very much because a UFC level heavyweight fight is pretty low level. And you can imagine what like the B league to the UFC looks like if that's what the heavyweight look like in the UFC. So I think Jhonata is, like I said before, is pretty good striker. I'm pretty sure he was a Glory kickboxer, which isn't saying a ton. There's some shitty Glory kickboxers and some Glory kickboxers who haven't transitioned to martial arts very well. But he's got experience in striking. I'm worried about him, getting basically SA'd on the ground against Hines, but I don't think Hines is that good, and he's kind of old, and I don't know, he just looks like very plotty on the feet, and I think he's just outmatched. Like, I think Carl Williams is probably a better fighter than him, and I think Austin Lane, maybe not a better fighter, but probably a more athletic and better grappler, and he still lost. So is Alvin Hines as good as Marcin Tybura? Probably not. So I'm picking Jhonata Diniz. Next fight of the card is Niko Price versus Jacobe Smith. Jacobe Smith is looked very good in the Contender Series, looked very good in his debut against, who was that? Preston Parsons? Let me check. Yeah, it was Preston Parsons. He wasn't very good. So, you might think like, oh, winning against Preston Parsons, maybe this guy's, not very good because Preston Parsons is not very good. But he's a minus 1,400 favorite against Niko Price because Niko Price is not very good and he's washed. So Niko Price somehow beat Alex Moreno 2 fights ago, but he looked really bad against Thema Grimbo and Robbie Lawler in Robbie Lawler's retirement fight. Robbie Lawler knocked him out pretty easily in the clinch. It looked like he got hit by like a thumb in an uppercut that wasn't turned over, and he got knocked out cold, like face planted on the ground out of the single collar position. And I think that's probably what Jacobe Smith is going to do. I think he's just going to find shots in better positions on the clinch and in the ground. I don't think he's going to risk, getting spinning elbowed or Niko Price, he's not super dangerous, but he's pretty dynamic. He does a lot of unorthodox stuff, and I don't think Jacobe Smith wants to get caught by anything. So I doubt he's going to trade on the feet. I bet he's just going to take him down or put him in the clinch and beat him up and finish him probably in the first round. So, he's minus 1,400. You're not going to get good money on a money line bet. But if you can get like a first round finish by, KO or TKO, maybe there's better money there. Speaking of first round finish, we've got Terrance McKinney versus Viacheslav Borshchev. I think this fight, like most of McKinney's fights, is going to be a first round finish or him losing later in the fight. And I just trust him to finish Viacheslav Borshchev because I've always looked recently. He's kind of switched stuff up. He's not just like headhunting like he used to. Damir Hadzovic, he fought him. He took him down, got to the mount, and then Damir Hadzovic turned his back. And he finished him with punches from, I guess like a back. He was like on his back mounted, and he flattened him out and finished him from there. Brendan Marat, he hit him with some body shots. Or no, that wasn't Brendan Marat. That was Mike Breeden. Mike Breeden, he hit him with some body shots, got him to drop his hands, and then finished him with like a standing TKO or like a sitting TKO, I guess. I like how McKinney with the exception of his Ribovich fight, has been switching it up and having success outside of just headhunting. That like sort of dynamicness and like not orthodox, but like stuff that the more you give Borshchev to worry about, the more likely he is to get hurt. And I think he's kind of chinny. If you watch the Chase Hooper fight, Viacheslav Borshchev is like a pretty, experienced kickboxer, a pretty good striker, and Chase Hooper was able to like throw an overhand and knock him down just because he was so ready for the takedown. So if McKinney just shows enough stuff and gets him to worry, I think he's going to find the chin of Borshchev and finish him in the first. But I do think that if Borshchev makes it out of the first, he probably, wins the second and third, because that's kind of the history of McKinney's career. So, yeah. Next fight up the card, Viviane Araújo versus Tracy Cortez. Tracy Cortez is a pretty sizable favorite, which is a little surprising because she's coming off probably the worst performance of her career, and Araújo is coming off probably the best performance of her career. But Araújo didn't look that good in that fight. Who was that? Karine Silva. She's a pretty big underdog in her last fight against Karine Silva. I think it was at UFC 308, 309, something like that. And Tracy Cortez fought Rose Namajunas in her last fight, and she kind of made it a spectacle of like a, self-humiliation. Like, she was about to miss weight, and then she had to cut her hair to make weight. She started crying, and then she faced off Rose Namajunas, who has no hair. And I was like, okay, you're crying about cutting off 6 inches of hair, and Rose Namajunas is bald. A little bit weird. And then she loses the fight, gets outclassed pretty easily, and she gets her eyelash punched off. And everyone's like, oh my God. Like, that's embarrassing. It made it look like she cared more about, how she looked in the fight physically rather than how she looked in the fight technically. But I think she's actually pretty solid of a fighter as far as women's flyweight goes. She beat Jasmine Chudovicius by decision, which is pretty impressive. Chudovicius didn't use her grappling that much, which I think if she did, she would have won. But it's impressive nonetheless. Chudovicius has looked really good recently. She just beat Jessica Andrade at 315, so that's a good one to have. Araújo, she's fought, I will say, like a lot of her losses come to the top of the division. You got Alexa Grasso, Natalia Silva. I think she fought Manafjord, maybe not, Amanda Ribas. So she's only losing to the best fighters in the division, but it's not like she's beating like the next tier. She's just only fought like the worst and the best fighters in the division, with the exception of a good win over Karine Silva. But Karine Silva could be shit, and she looked shit in that fight. And I think Tracy Cortez is proven enough, at least more than Silva was, that I think she's probably going to win this fight if it's close. Or I think she's going to win the fight and it'll be close. So, yeah. I think there's decent money on Araújo at like plus 200. But I don't think she's like so good that it's like, why is she being doubted by Vegas? I don't think she's really all that great. Next fight up the card. I just seen the odds for the first time. I'm a little surprised. It's Hyder Amil versus Jose Miguel Delgado. I really like Delgado. I think he's super good. I'm going to pick him to win. I'm just surprised he's the favorite because Amil's a little more proven. Amil's 11-0. I think this is his third UFC fight, maybe his fourth. Yeah, he beat Fernie Garcia, Zhang Yang Li, and William Gomez. I think all of those fights pretty impressively. None of those fights really showed me that he had a ton of skill. The Fernie Garcia and Zhang Yang Li. The Zhang Yang Li fight was impressive in that it was like a good win to have, but it wasn't like a high-low fight. He just kind of ran at him throwing punches, and Yang Li didn't move his head at all and just got finished on the feet, like immediately, I think inside the first minute or maybe just after the first minute mark. And Fernie Garcia kind of sucks, so I'm not going to put a ton of value on that. But I was pretty impressed by his William Gomez fight, and I was like, man, I think William Gomez is pretty good, and I like that win. Beating him by decision, not just fluking a finish. But then I looked more into Gomez. I'm like, maybe Gomez isn't actually that good. He beat Joanderson Brito, which is I think where a lot of people thought he was good from. Like I think that's why a lot of people picked Gomez to beat Hyder Amil, is because he looked good against Joanderson Brito, or not looked good, but he beat him. Controversially, but he beat him. And a lot of people didn't think Hyder Amil was that good. But Joanderson Brito looks like on and off in some fights. Like he looked really good against Diego Lopez, and he looked good against Andre Fili, but he looked like shit against Sabatini. He looked like shit against Gomez. And he looked really good against Jack Shore. But then he has other performances where you're like, this guy's good. Like I remember when he beat Fili, everyone was like, this guy beat Fili, really? Like everyone was like, this guy's not very good, and he beat Fili. So, yeah, I don't know if Joanderson Brito is that good, or if maybe he's just on and off and had an off night. Yeah, and I think he beat Gomez in that fight, so I'm not going to use it a ton to his advantage. He beat Giannis Gamori, but Giannis Gamori is not good at all. I think that was the fight at UFC Paris. There was 2 body kick TKOs at UFC Paris. I think that was Gan Spivak. And one of them was a actual groin shot, and the ref thought he was faking it, so they called it the fight. And I'm pretty sure that was William Gomez against Giannis Gamori. It was either that or someone else. I'm pretty sure the other one was Morgan Sherrier, and that was a legit body shot TKO. So this was the fake nut shot TKO. So not a very good, sign of a performance from Gomez. William Gomez arguably lost to Francis Marshall, who I don't think was as good as he is now at the time. Like, Francis Marshall looked good against Myron Santos and Dennis Bazooka, but I don't think he was as good back then as he is now. And Gomez didn't look good against Jarno Aarons, who is shit. So I don't know. I think Hyder is a little overrated. I think a lot of people didn't think he was that good when he first came in the UFC, and then he got 2 wins against, 2 wins that had a little bit of with context, they didn't look very impressive. And then he beat Gomez, and it's like, oh, he's actually legit because Gomez is legit. But I think with the context of Gomez maybe not being that good, not as good of a win. So I think Amil's not super proven. I think Delgado's really good. He's looked really technical. He's got a lot of interesting stuff he does, and he's got the basics down pretty good. So I think he's probably the better fighter. I guess we'll see. But I think this would be a good fight. I think it'd probably be a banger because Hyder Amil has pretty high output, and Delgado's really technical. So I'll pick Delgado to win. But this could be the fight that proves that Hyder Amil is actually legit, and I was wrong about William Gomez. So, yeah. But I guess Vegas agrees with me because Amil is the underdog. So I'm surprised by that. All right, next fight up the card: Jack Hermansson versus Gregory Rodrigues. I'm going to base a lot of my prediction on this fight based on the Joe Pyfer fight that Jack Hermansson had, because that is his most recent fight. And if you watch that fight, Jack Hermansson looked good. He fraud checked Joe Pyfer. He beat him in the last 3 rounds of a 5-round fight. But if that fight was 3 rounds, it's Joe Pyfer won 2-3 on 2 of the judges' scorecards. Like, he wins a split decision. And that fight's a lot less impressive, especially if we consider that Joe Pyfer, people are like, oh, Jack Hermansson is so good, he technically shut down Joe Pyfer. And then you watch Joe Pyfer versus Calvin Gaston, I'm like, oh, Joe Pyfer can get technically shut down by someone just fake moving their head, feinting a couple jabs, and taking a step back every time he throws because he sucks at throwing in combination. So I'm not really impressed by Hermansson out-techniquing Joe Pyfer. Obviously, Hermansson only really loses to the top of the division, but it's kind of a similar situation where Viviane Araújo, where it's like he doesn't really beat anyone that impressive, I guess, other than the Pyfer fight, and I don't really think that's that impressive. He's got these good losses to the top guys, but it's not like he's beating them. It's not like he's making it that close. Like, he lost to Roman Dolidze, and Roman Dolidze's kind of shit. So I guess he was beating Roman Dolidze until he snapped his knee or whatever. But I really don't think. I don't think losses to top level guys necessarily means that you're a top level guy. And I don't think it excludes you from being a top level or elite fighter. But I'm not going to be like, oh, you've only lost to the top of the top. Well, you haven't really beat anyone close to the top of the top. So, I think Gregory Rodrigues looked really good against Jared Cannonier. I'm sure a lot of people are going to use that fight against him, but let me fact check myself real quick. I'm pretty sure that was a round 4 TKO. So let me check. Yeah, he got TKO'd he got knocked out in round 4. So if that's a 3-round fight, then he wins a 3-round fight. Like, a lot of people are using 5-round fights as their most recent fights to determine whether or not they would win this fight. Like, Hermansson won his last 5-round fight, and Rodrigues lost his last 5-round fight. But this is a 3-round fight, and if the last 2 fights were 3 rounds, Rodrigues wins and Hermansson loses. So, I don't know. I think that Rodrigues could finish Hermansson. I think it's more likely that he finishes Hermansson than he gets finished by Hermansson. And I think if this fight goes to distance, I trust Rodrigues to win 2 of 3 rounds. Maybe in a similar way Pyfer did, where he just walks forward and has more activity and puts more on his strikes. So, yeah. Next fight up the card: Payton Talbott versus Felipe Lima. Interesting fight. Super interesting fight. It kind of sucks they made this fight on 2-week notice, because I think if both these fighters had like a long training camp where they focus on each other's specific techniques, this could be a really interesting fight. But I still think it will be. I'm going to pick Payton Talbott, and the reason why is, one, he's way bigger than Felipe Lima. Felipe Lima looks more like a big flyweight, and Payton Talbott looks like a featherweight, He's 4 inches taller than Felipe Lima. He's got skinnier legs, but he's way broader than Lima too. So he's got a much bigger frame. I don't think Lima looked very good on the feet against Miles Johns. I think his only really impressive performance in the UFC, I guess he's only had 2 fights, but of his fights in the UFC, his only impressive performance was against Naimov. And if you watch that fight, Naimov kind of just gave up his back. Like he was in the clinch, and then he turned around and gave up his back, got his back jump, and he got choked out. And it's impressive doing that, especially on short notice. But I'm not going to use that to justify him being like one of the top guys in the division. And I still think Talbott's really good. I'm not going to cope about picking Talbott. I mean, he clearly got whooped by Hany Barcelos, and it wasn't very impressive. But I do think a lot of things kind of didn't go his way. And a lot of the things that Hany Barcelos did, I really don't think Lima's going to be able to do. I think Lima's far too small to be able to just take him down and hold him down. And especially when you consider Lima's grappling style is like chasing position. Like he'll jump for the back, he'll jump for mount. And that's how you lose position against a guy who's got good scrambles like Talbott. So, and I also think that Payton Talbott has a huge advantage on the feet. So if Lima's going to chase position and give up scrambles a lot, I think he's going to let Talbott stand up a lot and let Talbott, have take advantage of a striking advantage. So, yeah. Did I write anything else about this? Yeah, I think it's possible that Lima finishes him early, like on the ground, like maybe gets a submission early or holds him down or TKOs him. But I don't know. I don't think that's more likely than not, especially at like a lower weight class like this, and in kind of a jump up in competition for Lima. So, like if he's not going to finish Miles Johns and he's going to take a step up against Talbott, I really don't think he's going to get a finish super easily. And also, I think Talbott mixes it up on the feet a lot. He throws a lot of knees up the middle. He throws a lot of he attacks the body quite a lot. So I don't think Lima. I think if Lima is on the feet for a lot of the fight, he's going to get kind of broken. And this fight is on short notice, so maybe his gas tank might not be all the way there. He might not be in perfect shape. And that does go both ways for Talbott. Like, obviously, if this fight's a lot of grappling, he kind of gassed against Hany Barcelos in a fight where he had a full training camp. And this fight, it's on 2 weeks' notice. If he's going to grapple a lot, he might gas too. I just think that it's more likely that Lima breaks on the feet than Talbott breaks on the ground. Or maybe it's about equally even, but if there's going to be a finish, I think it's more likely for there to be a finish on the feet with Talbott than a finish on the ground with Lima. So, It's interesting to see how many people are picking Lima. 68% on Tapology of 5,000 people are picking Lima. I'm surprised. I mean, I get Talbott didn't look good in his last fight, but I don't know. I think like 99% of people picked him over Barcelos, and I get he lost, but I still think he's pretty good. So I'm going to pick him to win. And I think the loss to Barcelos, I don't think it's going to hurt his career. I mean, obviously it's going to, prevent him from getting a shot to the ranking sooner, and maybe it'll hurt his, chance of getting a better contract, especially if he loses this fight. But I think it'll be better for his abilities. I think he needs that confidence, but he also needs like a little bit of groundedness. Like he's not going to be able to walk forward against, like he did against Simon, against like top level opponents. So if he improves like his ability to like get inside, and get into openings and maybe approach grappling himself, I think it'll make him a better fighter. So yeah. Next fight up the card, Beneil Dariush versus Renato Moicano. I think Dariush is pretty washed. He hasn't really had like a good performance since the Gamrot fight, and that was like almost 3 years ago. And I know that Moicano and Dariush are pretty much the same age, but I think you can argue Moicano was kind of in his prime in his last few fights. I mean, he was on that run where he beat Benoit Saint-Denis, Jalen Turner, Drew Dober, and that's some of the best he's looked in his whole career, since he's been at lightweight. And Dariush hasn't looked like the best he's been in his career, since probably before the Gamrot fight, which is like 3 years ago. So I think Moicano's good enough on the feet to not get outstruck or broken, in the same way that Dariush did to like a, what's the guy spinning back fist? Holtzman, Drakkar Klose. Like I don't think he's going to get like in a sloppy boxing match and get chinned like Drakkar Klose was. And Dariush hasn't finished anyone on the ground in 6 years, which is a long time. And I know a lot of people think of Dariush as like this great grappler, and he is. He had Tony Ferguson, was he the leg lock or was that Oliveira? I'm pretty sure he had the leg lock and Oliveira had the armbar. He pretty easily out-grappled Ferguson, but that's kind of everyone recently. But But yeah, he neutralized Gamrot in the grappling, and I'm sure he's a great grappler, and I don't know if Moicano's going to have that much success. But he hasn't finished anyone on the ground in 6 years, and like I don't think Dariush is going to finish him on the feet. And I think the only way for Dariush to win this fight is to completely neutralize Moicano everywhere, and I think that's pretty hard to do. I don't really think anyone's been able to do that other than Makhachev just like sprawling a takedown and submitting him, and I don't think Dariush is going to do that. So, yeah, I think Moicano has the advantage on the feet, and even if he doesn't have advantage, he's not going to get finished. And I think that he has the grappling on the ground, and even if he doesn't have the advantage, he's going to get, he's not going to get finished. And if you've been watching my predictions recently, anytime I say this is a pretty even fight, but one guy might be washed, the guy is very washed and loses easily. So, yeah, I think Dariush might be washed. And if not, I think Moicano has like a slight advantage. So, yeah. Also, an interesting fact, or maybe not fact, but something that I've noticed in a lot of Moicano's recent fights is if he's fighting someone that one of his teammates has fought before, he does better. So he fought, what's his name? Benoit Saint-Denis. Poirier fought him before, he did better. He fought, I don't know, that you can check. But Gamrot is his teammate, basically, and Gamrot has fought Dariush before, so I think that he's going to do better. Oh yeah, Gamrot also fought Jalen Turner, and Moicano did better than Gamrot against Jalen Turner. So yeah, Gamrot has fought Dariush before. It was a close fight that Gamrot lost. If Moicano does better, he wins. Okay. Next fight off the card, banger. This is the featured fight. It's a pretty short card. Royval versus Joshua Van. I was super hyped when they made this fight. I really wanted to see Royval versus Manel Cap because I thought that was going to be a really good fight. But it's cool to see my boy Joshua Van getting shot up the rankings. So, yeah. I wrote a ton about this, and I don't want to miss anything, so I'm just going to read what I wrote. Yeah, I'm picking Joshua Van. Royval hasn't fought anyone who is willing to trade with him since the first Pantoja fight, and in that fight, Pantoja had a lot of success on the feet, even though he looked super sloppy. So yeah, Pantoja did a lot of running forward, throwing punches, kind of like Duplessis, where he just throws punches as he steps and switches stances, and he had a lot of success. He was just landing on Royval pretty easily. If Van has the confidence and moves forward and gets in extended exchanges, he will likely outland and damage Royval, unlike Moreno. So if you watch the second, the most recent Moreno-Royval fight, it was pretty even on the feet, but Moreno was a little hesitant, and he just got out-volumed every round. He just got outlanded 2-1. So, what was I going to say? Unlike Moreno, who wanted to be too clean and got out-volumed, I had concerns about Van getting hurt real bad in these exchanges because he got hurt in extended exchanges against Edgar Chairez and Charles Johnson. So if you watch the Chairez fight, Van hurt him, and then he kind of marched him down and was going to the head and to the body and to mixing it up and kind of punching in stride, similar to how Pantoja did against Royval. And Chairez grabbed the fence and threw a spinning elbow and rocked him real bad, and Van had to shoot for a takedown to survive. And then to watch Charles Johnson fight, Van was winning the first 2 rounds, and Charles Johnson hit him with an uppercut as he was leaving exchange, taking advantage of his size. And those are the last 2 big flyweights that he fought. So I was worried that Royval is the next big flyweight he's fought. He got hurt against the last 2 he fought. But one, I don't think that Royval is likely to be nearly as chaotic as he was early in his career. If you consider the Kai Kara-France fight or the Pantoja fight, Royval was wild in that fight. He threw against Kai Kara-France, he threw a spinning elbow and rocked him, and then he threw it was an accidental illegal knee. He was going crazy. He was spinning. He was throwing wild combinations, ending with kicks, stuff like that. If you watch the Pantoja fight, he was also exchanging with Pantoja kind of wildly. I think they headbutted a couple times. But since then, he's cleaned it up a lot. So, if you watch the Moreno fight, he's not throwing spinning elbows. And if you watch the Tero fight, he's not throwing, spinning kicks and whatever. He's not going crazy like he was earlier in his career. And if you watch the second Pantoja fight, he doesn't do nearly that much stuff, and he was held on the ground for most of it, but he didn't do, Granby rolls and go for guillotines. He didn't, go crazy in the feet when he had his chances. I think he was playing a lot cleaner, trying to stay safe. And I think that's kind of the way he shifted his career. And I think he needs to be kind of chaotic to land cleanly and hurt Van. If you watch Charles Johnson, there was a wild, looping uppercut as he's leaving an exchange, and he used his huge reach advantage against Van to cold him, and that was like the only way he was able to hurt him bad. And if you watch Shayrez spends the whole round getting beat up, and then he throws like a wild spinning elbow as Van's moving forward, and that's the only way he was able to hurt him in that round. So if Royval doesn't use that like chaotic kind of unorthodoxy, I think he's going to struggle to land cleanly on Van and hurt him. And even if he lands clean and hurts him, I don't think he's going to finish him. I mean, if you look at the strike that Charles Johnson landed, it was a perfect uppercut that landed clean on his chin as he was moving backwards, and he didn't see it coming. And that's what finished Van. And that was a while ago. And if you watch Shayrez, the elbow that he landed, it was basically a picture-perfect spinning elbow. Van walked forward onto it. He wasn't looking, or you didn't see it coming. He had his hands down. He was chasing the finish. And was like literally everything you want to land with a perfect spinning elbow. And it was only a couple months, I think like 3 months after Van got knocked out cold by Charles Johnson, and it just rocked him. He didn't even get knocked down by that spinning elbow. So I think Van actually has a pretty good chin, especially when we consider he got knocked out and then 2 months or 3 months later, whatever, he got hit by a perfect strike and didn't get knocked out against a guy like Shayrez, who's actually pretty dangerous. So yeah, I think that Van really hasn't been hurt since then. His chin has probably regenerated significantly more than it was in that Shayrez fight. And even if Royval lands this perfect, once a fight strike, I don't think he's going to finish Van. So yeah, I think a lot of people are picking Royval because Van got hurt bad by Shayrez and he got hurt bad by Charles Johnson. Those are the last two big flyweights that he fought, and it's like Van has improved a lot since then. He was super green when he fought Charles Johnson, and he got finished. And he was still pretty young, and he was, probably as chinny as he's ever been against Shayrez, and he got hit by the perfect strike, and he still won that fight. So I'm not going to use his hit ability to, pick Royval against him. Like I said, I think Royval needs to be pretty chaotic to outstrike and out-hurt Joshua Van, and I don't think he's going to do that, and he needs to be chaotic to also land that perfect strike that Shayrez and Charles Johnson landed, and even if he does, I don't think it's going to win him the fight. So yeah, Van took some pretty good strikes off of Durden and off of Bruno Silva, but he came back and he whooped the two of them. So I'm not really worried about like technical clean 1-2s landing and hurting Van real bad. He's got a pretty decent chin, and I think he's got the technical striking advantage. And then when it comes to grappling, it's the same story as every Van fight. He's really short and stocky for the division. A guy like Ray Saruya, who I think has got way better takedowns than Royval, was only able to take down Van once, and he wasn't able to hold him down at all. So, and that was like his main goal of the fight. He wasn't like gassed at all from trying to outstrike him or out-technique him. He just he solely was trying to take him down and had no success and got really badly punished for it. So I don't think Royval is going to do that, but I don't really think anyone thought Royval was going to do it. So yeah. It's going to be a banger. I'm excited for Van to go out there and have a good performance on the main card of the pay-per-view. If he loses, that's fine. I like Royval. What sucks is that Royval said if Pantoja wins, he's going to have to move up to bantamweight, which is true, because if Pantoja wins, I really don't think that Royval's getting another shot at the belt. But I like Royval. It'd be cool to see him win. It would suck to see Van lose to have Royval win, but he's got a cool style, and I think he fits in pretty well at the top of the division. Like a Kai Kara France rematch would be cool, or a fight against Asakura or Horiguchi or something like that. That'd be cool. So I don't want Royval to lose, but I want Van to win. So yeah. Next fight at the card, co-main event: Alexandre Pantoja versus Kai Kara France for the 125 belt. This is technically a rematch because they fought in the Ultimate Fighter, but that was a 2-round fight. It was technically an exhibition, so this isn't really a rematch. This is their first, what do you call it, commission-sponsored bout under the UFC banner. So, yeah. I don't know. Originally, I was going to pick Kai Kara France, and I'll tell you why. I always thought that Kai Kara France was, like, the worst matchup for Pantoja since Figueiredo left the division. And that's just because Pantoja is super hittable, and he doesn't have a lot of head movement. And Kai Kara France is probably the hardest hitter in the division. He's the real hardest hitting 125er. But I watched a bunch of Kai Kara France fights, and I realized that maybe he's not the worst matchup for Pantoja. If you watch the Albazi fight and you watch the Askarov fight, I think that Kaikar France beat Askarov, and he probably should have beat Amir Albazi, but he had to take a ton off of his strikes to land on, he didn't finish them, but he had to take a ton off of his strikes to beat the two of them and, worry about the grappling. I've been worried about potentially getting gassed out in a 5-round fight. And he's not going to finish, Pantoja with the strikes that he landed on Amir Albazi and Askarov. If he landed the strikes that he landed on Urseg, then, that would be what would finish Pantoja. But if you go into like the moments where Pantoja's been hurt, it's not from strikes like he landed, Kaikar France landed on Urseg. If you watch that fight, Kaikar France throws like a 1-2 switch, looping left hook, or he throws like a jab, right hook, switch stance, looping left hook, and like the looping left hook as he's stepping forward and Urseg is stepping back, lands clean, and then he finishes him later. And that's kind of like how Kaikar France lands like power punches. He does like big looping strikes, never straight punches, never knees to the middle, never nothing like that. It's always like looping punches. It's the same thing you hit Garbrandt with, where it's like a looping hook, which is not really how you hurt Pantoja. If you watch Pantoja against Urseg, when Urseg had success hurting him, it was elbows up the middle, 1-2s, hard jabs. Like it was right up the middle as Pantoja's moving forward. And you can't really hit like a looping left hook on a guy who's running towards you. You can, I guess, but it's a lot harder to land hard and clean. And what he did against Urseg, he can literally never do against Pantoja, because Pantoja's not going to give him that ground. If Kaikar France does a 1-2 and then switches stances to throw a left hook, Pantoja's just going to dive on his hips and take him down and beat him up. I don't think he's really going to have a lot of success on the feet. I thought the performance against Albazi was really impressive by Kaikar France. I know it was close, but I was like, he's not super big flyweight. He was neutralizing a really good grappler. And then I watched Amir Albazi fight Brandon Moreno, and Brandon Moreno got taken down once and got up in 1 second. And then he beat the fuck out of Albazi for 5 rounds. And Brandon Moreno had nowhere near that amount of success in any of his 3 Pantoja fights. He lost all 3 of them. He got easily out-grappled in all 3 of them. There was points in every single fight where he got held down, gave up bad positions, got out-grappled, and that didn't happen once in the Albazi fight. And Albazi was able to take clearly 2 rounds off of Kaikar France by out-grappling him and having better position. So if there's that big of a difference between Pantoja and Albazi's grappling as shown in the Moreno fights, then it's not going to be a close fight with Pantoja for Kaikar France, or like it was for Albazi. It's going to be a pretty big gap, and Pantoja's going to win handily. And that's if he doesn't get a finish, which I think he will, because I think Kaikar France has done the research that I've done and understands that I'm not going to be able to land super cleanly on Pantoja if I fight super safe like I did against Albazi and against Askarov. So I think he's going to go all out, throwing big hooks, trying to just land clean, maybe land some lift knees on Pantoja and try to hurt him early. And I think that's going to get him taken down and finished early. Kind of like I was talking about with the O'Malley fight with Merab. Like in the first fight, he did 2 different ways. In the first fight, he tried to, as soon as he got taken down, just stay safe, don't get hurt, survive to the next round, and then try to get a finish in the next round, and then repeat until the end of the fight. Or like he did in the second fight, as soon as his back hits the ground, try to get up, just try to keep as much of the fight on the ground as possible to try to get a finish. That ended up having him gas out and get finished. I think Kaikar France has the same 2 options. If he gets taken down by Pantoja, he can try to hold Pantoja in his guard, or play the half guard game, or he can try to get up, try to scramble, and risk getting finished earlier, but spend more of the fight on his feet, and risk getting gassed out later. So we've seen Pantoja fight both those styles before. Like Moreno was a lot safer, didn't try to scramble a ton in their most recent fight. Royval, kind of the same thing in their most recent fight. He just tried to keep him in his half guard, prevent him from passing, prevent him from getting the back. And then, Perez, as soon as Pantoja turned on him, he tried to initiate a scramble, got his back taken, got submitted. Royval, in their first fight, he Granby rolled like every single time Pantoja got any control or shot for any takedown, and eventually he got his back taken and he got submitted. So either option that Kaikar France takes, I think he loses, because I just think Pantoja is that good of a grappler, and I think Kaikar France is not that good of anything specific. I just think he's got a lot of pop. And honestly, I don't really think he's got that much pop, because he's got 3 finishes in the UFC. He's finished Urseg, who looks pretty chinny. He finished Garbrandt, who was already chinny and then came down a weight class. And then he finished Terrance Mitchell on The Ultimate Fighter, and Terrance Mitchell is like a shitty bantamweight, so I don't know. I'm not too impressed by Kakar France anywhere. He always has a chance of chinning Pantoja, but I think Pantoja has a good style for not getting chinned by him, and is better pretty much everywhere else. So, yeah. Next fight, main event. It's going to be one of the Fight of the Year contenders, at least on paper. I'm super excited for it. We've got Ilia Topuria versus Charles Oliveira. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this. Obviously, I'm going to pick Topuria. He's a pretty big favorite, and for a good reason. I'll talk about maybe where Oliveira can have some success, but I'm going to pick Topuria. So, when Topuria KO'd Holloway, I was like, okay, there's no context to take away from him here. In the Volkanovski fight, you can be, Volkanovski coming off getting chinned a couple months ago. He's always been defensively not that sound when backing up. But when he finished Holloway, I'm like, all right, Holloway didn't make any massive mistakes on the ground. On the feet. He's not really done anything stupid. There's no really context. He's coming off one of the best wins of his career. This is a really good win, and I'm not going to pick anyone against Topuria, especially if the fight's going to stay on the feet. I think a lot of this fight is going to be on the feet. Obviously, Oliveira, I'll just say this: Oliveira's really hittable, and no matter how patient he is, he's been hurt in almost all of his fights, unless the fight is like a, the Arman Tsarukyan fight where it's like a scrambling match the whole time, and he lost that fight, so I'm not going to use it for him. But yeah, against Poirier, against Gaethje, against Chandler in both fights, against Islam, he's been hurt in every fight, and Topuria is one of the best hitters in the sport right now, and he's got more power than I think everyone that he's fought so far. Gaethje, if we want to do some math, Gaethje hurt Oliveira. He ended up losing that fight. He got dropped and finished himself, but he hurt Oliveira pretty bad in a way that I think Topuria would, finish Oliveira. And then, Gaethje loses to Holloway, gets outstruck pretty clearly, gets finished in the 5th round, and Holloway loses to Topuria. So, it's just kind of any way you split it, Topuria, if he has any of the success that Poirier had or Gaethje had or Islam had or Chandler had in either of their fights, he's gonna, finish Oliveira. I don't really see a ton of space for Oliveira to win. If he, uses his wrestling, which is what I think he should do, which he clearly looked improved on in his last fight against Chandler, I think he can have some success. He never really had Chandler in any trouble on the ground. And Chandler's got a similar build to Topuria, where he's like a small, powerful, explosive, bulky guy, especially at 155. Charles was able to take him down and hold him down, but he wasn't able to take him down, get his back, and finish him. He was able to take him down, get his back, and then have literally Chandler taunting while Oliveira's on his back. So, yeah, I'm not super, and also, if you forgot, fucking Chandler dropped him really bad in the 5th round of that fight and almost finished him with back of the head shots. So, I think what Oliveira's probably going to do is wrestle for most of the fight and then try to use the single collar, the tie clinch, and take advantage of his reach to hurt Topuria on the feet. It's just that, Volk tried to do the same thing, and I think Volk is one of the best guys at that, punching for the single collar, and that's kind of how he got finished. It's like he got backed up to the cage. He was worried about getting in a drawn-out combination. He tried punching for, throwing a hook and, grabbing the collar. It didn't work. He got caught with the right hook and he got put out cold. And I can totally see, we've seen Oliveira get hurt like that before. He did try to do that against Gaethje, and that's how he got dropped. He tried to do it against Islam, and that's how he got dropped. I could totally see him just getting hurt, being in that range. And that's basically where Topuria's finished everyone. Now, I will say, a lot of people are talking about the Jai Herbert fight, and it's like, oh, Jai Herbert's a big, tall lightweight. That was the last time Topuria fought at lightweight. He got hurt really bad in that fight and almost finished, which is true, but I think a lot of people aren't talking about the rest of the first round in that fight where Herbert, outstruck Topuria. I think a lot of people are like, wow, we got landed this head kick. And maybe if you didn't watch the fight, you can be like, oh, we got hit by a head kick. That kind of happens. He didn't get finished. He came back and won. But Herbert did have a lot of success in that first round, striking in a way that Topuria does. It's like left hooks and right hands and not putting a ton of power on him and just using his range and using his jab. And I think that Oliveira could have some success in that range. And I think especially with his knees up the middle, he could find Topuria a lot. I just think that, Herbert is as defensively responsible as Oliveira, and after the first round of that fight, it was just like impending doom for him. Like eventually he's going to get, caught and finished. And I don't think that Oliveira is going to have like a one big strike that's as big as Herbert's head kick that's going to, finish Topuria. He doesn't throw a lot of pop. Like he's not going to throw a flying knee or a huge, uppercut or a head kick that's going to land clean. Like he doesn't really do that to people. Like the best strike he's going to land is like the left hook landed against Chandler, which I think he could land. But I don't know. I just don't see him like putting Topuria out cold or like knocking him down and then TKOing him on the ground. Like that. I really don't see that happening against Topuria. Like the only guy Oliveira's done that to is Michael Chandler, and Michael Chandler's shit. So I don't know. If Topuria fights in that range, I can see him having success, but I can't see him winning the fight. And we've seen Topuria in his last two fights against probably the two best featherweights of all time. He's dropped a first round, he's dropped a second round against Holloway, but it's just like impending doom. Like you can tell based on the body language. Like Topuria's just going to find a shin and win. I felt that immediately in the Holloway fight, in the Volkanovski fight, where it's like it's that feeling of impending doom. And I definitely feel like we're going to feel that in the Oliveira fight on Saturday. So those are my predictions. Let me know if you agree or disagree. Oh, one thing I'll say is I think that Topuria's going to go for the body a lot. If you watch the Damon Jackson fight, Damon Jackson was, I think, Topuria's first opponent in the UFC, or his second, maybe after the Viacheslav fight. And he was, got a similar frame to Oliveira, where he's tall and he's a grappler and he goes for the clinch a lot. And Topuria, literally from this bell, like right when the fight started, he just immediately started throwing like combinations, left hook, right hook, left hook, right hook to the body. And I can totally see him doing that to Oliveira, and it working really well. And I know Oliveira, if you watch the sport for long enough, you'll remember that Oliveira kind of had a reputation as like a quitter. Like he tapped his strikes in one fight. In the Holloway fight, he had like his torn esophagus, but people call him a quitter for that. And I don't know if that's fully gone. Like I think I could see Oliveira breaking to body shots like really early in the fight. And also like getting hit by body shots early and maybe gassing later. I can see both those things happening. So yeah, I'm gonna pick Topuria to win. Let me know if you agree or disagree with my predictions. I'm hoping for a good card. But yeah, like the video, share the video. Thanks for listening. Subscribe. You can follow my Twitter. Link is in the description. This video will be in a playlist that contains all of my predictions for every card this year. There's a PFL on later today. There's a one event. I think that was this morning, actually. Never mind. Jake Paul's fighting Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. There's that, I guess. Hopefully on to better things. We've had some stinker cards recently. We haven't had like a really good fight or card in a while. So hopefully we're on to greener pastures. Again, thanks for listening. Again, let me know if you agree or disagree. And that is all. That is UFC 317.